Amazing. So today we are live, and we actually have a very incredible panel lineup this week. So I'm very excited to announce that our first panel discussion is happening today. So if you have joined in, welcome. And if you have any questions, please pop them into our comment section. We are opening up a conversation today. And our guest lineup for our first episode includes Sam Page, who is the head of SEO and AI strategy at inMotion Hosting. Erika Varangouli, who is the head of branded content at Riverside, Ian Ferguson, SEO consultant at FerguSEO, and if you also know him, he has a very successful newsletter going called TLDR. And Eric Hoover is AI and SEO director at Kepler Group. He is starting off as well in the coming weeks. So very exciting to news as well coming from Eric. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for coming on. How are you all doing?
Good.
Awesome. Very good.
Thanks so much for coming on. And yeah, to kick things off, just for our listeners that are joining, I wanted to kind of maybe go in a chronological order and keep it maybe as short as sweet as possible. If you guys, maybe starting from Sam's side, let me know a little bit about who you are and the maybe experience that you have, any particular niches you work in. Yeah, just anything for the listeners to kind of get a look and feel for, like, if they have any questions in particular for you.
Yeah, thanks, Shreya. Yeah, chronological, I guess that means I'm the oldest. No, thanks. I've been in SEO since 2024, I think. It's about that long ago. And I've taken on various roles through agencies to in-house to small companies and big companies. My previous 3 roles, or my most recent 3 roles, have been global head of SEO at Amazon Business, director of SEO at Slack, and then my current role here today at inMotion Hosting. So I've been around the block, especially with enterprise companies and B2B SaaS. So anyway, happy to be here and share some of my perspectives.
Awesome. Erika?
Devastating if we're going by age that I'm second. Okay. Yeah. Hi. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me. So I've like Sam, I've been around the block a few times as well since I think 2012. So kind of like evenly split. First half was agency side, where clients were from everywhere. So fintech, traveling, and SaaS and local businesses and so on. And then the second half has been the latest one, which is more focused on SaaS, B2B mostly, but also B2C. And now I'm heading SEO and branded content at Riverside for like the last 14-15 months. Before that, I was at SEMrush for 4 years, heading organic search and then SEO brand and so on. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Ian?
Hi, so I kind of new SEO. I'm a independent SEO consultant, have been for only 4 months now. It's gone really well. Prior to that, I've always had agency roles for the previous 10 years, working mainly with e-commerce brands. So not directly with them, but working for big brands like Barber and Montaigne, and some kind of lead gen B2B companies out there like Womble Bond Dickinson, to name one. So quite a varied background, and yeah, recently made the leap to independent SEO consultant, and again specializing on the e-commerce side.
Awesome. Eric?
Yeah, like everyone else, I've been doing this for quite some time. I've been in SEO since 2007, started in automotive marketing, and I've done pretty much every industry in between, B2B, B2C, B2 whatever the job entailed, primarily agency side. I was recently a Jellyfish doing...
Oops, I think he cut off. All right, no problem. When Eric comes back on,
so really great. I was... Oh no, did I lose you or did you lose me? Or I don't know.
Not
Can you
sure.
hear me now?
You stopped at you were a jellyfish.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, everyone spiraled for a second, but then came right back on. So
Okay.
I guess the meeting invite doesn't like me. Yes, I was a jellyfish, working with Deckers, so Hoka and UGG. Before that, I was working on LG Electronics. Currently going to Kepler to lead AI and SEO strategy, which is, I think, a lot of what we're here to talk about today. So it's timely.
Awesome. And to kick things off, I want to chat about something that is happening quite aggressively the past 2 years, which is naturally like the industry shifts and stability in the market at the moment. The current topic of our webinar as well, which is AI and its impact in brand and SEO. And yeah, I wanted to maybe kick things off with a question on, with AI and SGE changing how search works, what do you guys suggest SEO should be doubling down in regards to remaining relevant in today's market at the moment? Erika, could I go with you as a starting point? Yeah.
Okay. We have Eric as well, so I'm always
Yeah.
there. Okay, so we're talking in terms of strategies now, or not in terms of skills, right?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think because things are developing very fast. Gladly, we're in an industry where insights and people's willingness to share things is also developing fast. So I think some things are becoming more widely known now, right? So we see people talking about how their top of the funnel is not paying off anymore. Hence, recommendation doubling down on bottom of the funnel content and doubling down on that. We also see more and more people talking about the citations in LLMs and AI search, so talking about how brand is important. I want to be critical of all of that, not because it's not right. Like what I say from my end is pretty much, it's not different to what others see, right? But I want to take us a step back and ask the fundamental question, not about whether SEO is dead yet, because we already have that question, so I'm not there yet first. But what was SEO always about in the first place? Okay. And it's not the discussion, should we call it SEO or something else? It's not the discussion, is every technical aspect the same or not, or the new capabilities, but it's like, what is SEO doing in reality, right? And SEO is about discoverability where people search. And that algorithms change, top search engines may change or come and go from time to time. But SEO was never just about one of its components. It was never just about technical infra. It was never just about great content and then miracles happen. So it was always a much bigger compound effect of components. Not all of them just for SEOs to do, but I think good SEOs were always collaborative. Good SEOs always cared about reputation and brand. Good SEOs always looked at technical and optimization there. So in that sense, like the things we're finding out today, like bottom of the funnel, well, of course, but if you didn't look at it before, you had a huge gap anyway, right? It's not a measure you have to take because your 3,000 blog posts no longer get the clicks. It's because what you should be doing in the first place is driving traffic and convert it, right? Or be there when people are middle of the funnel and comparing stuff. If you never cared about your reputation and your brand, you might optimize for everything on your side. But when people search for your brand, which is the outcome of theoretically being exposed to it, they were finding all the negative reviews on G2 or the threads on Reddit. So in a way, I think what is happening is that kind of like very abrupt realization that SEO is not something that happens in isolation for one search engine. It's a motion within a wider mechanism that is the different channels, a brand, your reputation, the channels that drive organic awareness, then traffic, then everything else. So in that sense, I think you double down on good SEO, you double down on collaboration, you double down on funnels, you double down on being, because you cannot afford to just ignore top of the funnel just because the clicks are gone, right? That's your semantic relevance. That's where your audience is starting to get awareness. You cannot ignore your reputation, which we used to call authority. Many people just thought, okay, it's the links I get from DA site 70. It was never that. So so just do good SEO, and then we can talk about what other additional new skills you build or what other things may work better. But those are tactics. If we're talking about long-term fruitful strategies, you just double down on the principles that were always there and you should be doing. That's my opinion.
Awesome. Sam, do you have any, how do you, just building off of Erika's point, how do you manage like that collaborative aspect within the SEO team that you manage, and you're just strategizing moving forward?
Yeah, I think it was something I was actually wanting to reply with, because yeah, Erika mentioned collaboration. Like, I feel like that is more important now than ever. And you have to be more collaborative, like especially in-house roles, you have to be more collaborative than you were before, right? So I noticed for AI, we work more with our affiliate team than we had before. There's a lot of like AI chatbots and AI overviews references a lot of affiliate sites in our industry. And getting good positioning and mentions in listicles is a really valid strategy in this near term. I'm always like in those meetings, and I'm like, oh, what happens when Google says they don't like your your source anymore? AI doesn't like your, because one day it could be like, oh, we're sourcing another article, and they lose all that traffic. But that's a different topic. Yeah, no, I think that for me, it's like I actually spend more time in meetings and workflows with other partners in the business than before. So used to be just like I talk to the analytics team, I'd talk to content teams, a little bit of dev team right here and there, but not so much affiliate or paid. And I think that is something that I'm really spending more attention and time on.
Awesome. Ian, I actually want to flip this over to you because you just moved into freelance, and I can imagine that what we're talking about right now, that collaboration aspect of things can be quite difficult. And yeah, how are you finding it? I know that you have moved into freelance for the past 4 months. And yeah, do you have any advice to freelancers that are like, looking to collaborate with other teams from a freelance aspect?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point, and what Sam said about the collaboration, especially in the in-house, is exactly true for agencies as well. So everybody thinks, I think everybody's got this romanticized version of an agency, like a full integrated agency that everybody talks to each other, and there's we kind of let's hear from the paid team. What do you think we should do? Let's hear from email, that kind of thing. Not always the case, and I think it needs to be with this AI kind of revolution. And to pick up what Erika said, it's like SEO by itself, however you define it, can no longer operate in isolation. It has to be kind of across all boards. And I even go one step further to say, like, if there is no SEO benefit, let's pretend there's no SEO benefit. What is the benefit of doing whatever we're doing, whether that's like a piece of content? Let's assume that it'll never rank. Is it still worth doing? Is it like valuable to our current reader base? Could we use it in email marketing, all that kind of thing? So it's a really good point. And I found myself, since going freelancing, collaborating more with like other freelancers. And it's interesting. It's a model I'm seeing more and more of, whether that's just because I'm in it now. I see these kind of like freelance collectives where it's like a group of kind of trusted experts or vetted experts. So somebody, for example, will come to me to talk SEO, and then I've worked with people, for example, like who could do like the PPC side, who I can refer them to. And it's almost like plugging me in or whoever it is into their teams, into where their kind of weaknesses are. But yeah, a very collaborative approach, like you say. It's talking to the clients, it's talking to the the customer acquisition team, see what the pain points are, and then crafting kind of content and collections, whatever it may be, around that.
Awesome. Eric, I'm going to move on to the next question, and especially just as you have just started your new role as AI and SEO director, hint at the next question being, what skill sets make SEOs layoff resistant in the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, I think being comfortable understanding what to do, it kind of jumps off of what everyone has been saying, understanding what to do with the data that you're getting from this new landscape. So I joke with my team, my previous team, and I'm sure I'll make the same joke with my new team. I've never looked at things like referral traffic before in my life, and I look at it all the time. I never really cared that much about impressions until about 6 months ago. Like understanding what's performing out there, where your positioning is within the AI space as well as within the traditional organic space. I think those are sort of key elements to analyzing and understanding how you can perform better as this, as we see Google basically transforming the SERP into a version of AI mode and deep research. I think it goes back to what people have been talking about, working across teams, but especially having that better visibility within, I'm speaking primarily from an agency standpoint where you're working with clients, but helping the clients understand where SEO can be input throughout their process. Because it's not just about, oh, we'll get those 10 blue links or whatever anymore. There's this growth of, answer engine optimization, whatever you want to call it, is really something that I think has been vital for some time, even before AI, with like people also ask. But I think as we continue to go into AI, that strategy and that thinking and understanding how you're performing in that space, that's going to be what we really need to understand. And that's where I try to guide my teams, is to feeling comfortable looking at that entire landscape and not just those 10 blue links. And, do I focus on just getting this ranking? I'm seeing a lot of comments and questions over in the chat around, oh, what about this or that? It's going right back to what Erika said, her main idea, which is it's not just about one thing or another. It's about understanding various aspects of where your positioning is, how it's being viewed. Is it being viewed by a human or an AI? And kind of having a culmination of all that is really how you're going to continue to win. It's not easy to hear because a lot of SEOs, I think, are always like, oh, I'll just focus on X, Y, and Z, and that'll be that. You can't really do that anymore. Unfortunately, it's a much bigger in-depth process where you have to look at data points you've probably never considered before to understand what AI is showing people, where it's getting information from, whether it's copying that information or, as it does many times, rewriting it and just putting a citation in. Really knowing that is going to be key, while also keeping your traditional results in check. Anyway, I mean, I saw a study by SEO Clarity about 2 weeks ago. It said, I think it was somewhere between 75 and 80% of AI overview citations are all page one. So that's still vital. But then understanding what information that AI is pulling in. Is it a bulleted list? Is it imagery? Is it a mix of all that? Getting all that information and dissecting that is just going to become key. It already is key, in my opinion, to winning, or at least staying competitive.
Awesome. I love that.
Can I jump in? Because I think this question is amazing. And I think at some point or another, we're all hiring someone for our teams or not. And I can tell you what I find myself looking more and more for in the roles I've been hiring in the last year or so, regardless of the description or the actual part of the team I'm looking for. The good news is I think we are now, as SEOs or whatever we call it, we're at the most exciting phase of doing our jobs than we've ever been for as long as we've been doing it. Okay. I think none of us was around in mid-90s. So I can safely say, for me, at least, this is the most exciting time. So for people who are starting out, they're early on or not, they're, much more mature. The prime opportunity I see is that no one has graduated from primary school yet. We're all in primary. Okay, so we're all learning, we're all testing, we're all blind. We don't have even the analytics tools or the data and so on, because lack of data was always making companies C-suite nervous. So in comparison, anything that you could put down to data and sort of be solid about the data was interpreted as this is the full picture. And I think that's why, Eric, what you said, that's why SEOs for a long time, they were focused on one thing, because they were made to a large degree focus on vanity metrics or a specific metric or KPI. So although for years we've been talking about the dark web, the dark social, the whole kind of data dark spots, right now it's true for everyone, right? So there is that lack of experience and knowledge, because we're building as things are getting built, and we're finding out as things are being shipped out there. And for me, that is exciting. So the thing I would suggest the most is now is their opportunity, anyone's opportunity, to be creative and test things, right? If you come across people tell you, nope, this will not work, this is wrong, whatever, they probably don't get the full picture right now. But for us, it's exciting. There are so many things that the blockages before was like, we know too much about how things work, and that's very much deprioritized, because it's not the top thing. The top thing is we rank number one, or someone always knew something about how to make it work better, or a hack, and it always worked. Right now, we're all in, like my daughter, reception. We're graduating from reception here, and we're learning. And the only way to learn is to read, of course, do things, stay in touch with what is happening, but then test yourself and fail, and then see where you don't fail, and keep on. So for me, it's exciting, and it's the first thing I'm looking for is have examples, like if someone is interviewing for jobs, right, or if they're wondering whether they are in their career, where it's going to go. If you're not experimenting and failing, you're not doing it right at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Just-
really, testing.
Go ahead, Sam, go ahead.
Testing is how I learned in SEO. There wasn't a lot of documentation. Like there was no Moz or whatever, like there just wasn't much information. So we had to learn by testing things. And I think that that's a valuable skill set to have, and especially in today's world. So sorry, Eric, go ahead.
No, that's totally fine. I totally agree. And I wanted to add to the point about being in the dark. As SEOs, I feel like we always have had less data than everyone else. Like, paid media's they know what keywords are getting clicked on and what's driving traffic. We've always had to sort of, for lack of a better term, guess a little at that, make educated guesses. So when it comes to a little less data than everyone else, there is a part of me that's like, oh, now no one knows the data, haha. So now you know how we felt for the past couple of decades. But we're used to being, like Eric said, to getting creative and understanding, what we can with the data we do see. That's become vital. Where SEOs are the best people to be set up for this kind of change. My poor paid media folks, I apologize, but you're in a new world there.
I love that.
Can I add one thing? Something I think that's sort of implied in this question, how you can be layoff proof. I think it's implied that there will be layoffs. And I do think that if you look at like software engineers as an example, AI has eaten a lot of entry-level software engineer jobs. And I don't think this will be unique to software engineering. I think SEO, especially entry-level SEO jobs where it was a lot of like rote work, I guess is the way you would say it, like just a lot of grinding, updating 1,000 title tags or whatever, right? Like that kind of work is pretty much gone and not going to come back. And I think it makes it very difficult for entry-level SEOs to get the experience. So I think that's worth a discussion as well. But yeah, I think the landscape's changing, and the way you can kind of get that experience as a beginner SEO is to do it yourself and test yourself. And that's kind of always been the case, but I think previously you could kind of take this track of coming in as a junior in an agency or in-house and kind of learn the ropes that way. But I just don't see very much demand for that in the near future.
But I think, Sam, that was on my mind as well, like in terms of which jobs in SEO may be more future-proof, which is all. But that's why I'm saying it's exciting, because as a junior SEO, like 10, 15 years ago, you were going in an agency or a role and it was like, okay, make title tags, make meta descriptions, whatever. And now what you can do, because we're all in primary school, is go in and be that person that learns how to build the automations, learns how to handle different components that will allow to automate things that previously, yes, someone did, but they were so boring. So I think we're still in that window where no one has that knowledge, or has conquered it, or not no one, but very, very few people can do that right now. Okay, so as a junior, the basic thing you now need to demonstrate, I think, is that eagerness to learn, and that creative thinking and technical mindset, for example, and the experimentation. Whereas before it was kind of like, okay, I understand through rules, that's keyword, that's the title tag, I just do something. So I agree with you, but I think it's just shifting what it includes, not that it is not needed necessarily.
Awesome. I want to flip this question over to you, Ian, as well. But just before I do, there was a point that you mentioned, Erika, at the beginning, just that like everyone is in primary school at the moment, and kindergarten. And I think that, everyone laughs when we mention it because it is so true. But I think from like a junior to mid SEO level, it can be terrifying to accept that that's something we're in right now. And I just wanted to kind of move this question more towards the aspect of communication. Because I think like a few years ago, it was easy to kind of communicate what was happening with your SEO strategy, and what was happening in the industry in general. And do you have any tips for maybe junior and mid-level SEOs that are struggling to maybe communicate that like they don't know and we're in this testing phase at the moment? Or any tips that you have to help them like maybe convey this message over to potential clients or their higher ups?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's quite difficult, and I agree with everything that's been said. I think with juniors, it's difficult because you've got this mindset. Probably not even juniors like myself. We suffer from the word's just gone, but thinking that basically you don't know something and everyone else does. Imposter syndrome, that's the one. And especially when you go on LinkedIn, and there are, every time you go on, it's like, take my AI course, because if you don't do it, it's a lot of fear mongering around like, I've got the secret sauce to AI, do my course and you'll know what it is. But like Erika said, we're all juniors and everybody's guessing, and I guess some people are just like taking advantage of that. In terms of communicating, it is difficult because it's going to be just a case of educating, whether you are a junior or not, and like reframing what it means, what SEO means, and what ultimately the extra traffic we're bringing in, or not even the extra traffic, but the traffic we're bringing in, how that qualifies and how that eventually would lead to a sale or a lead, which, like I said at the very beginning, that should be the sole purpose anyway. So if you're chasing vanity metrics such as like the number of keywords you rank for, average position, that kind of thing, or DA, less meaningful. But if you really boil it down in terms of like how many leads are we generating, how many sales are we getting, and creating dashboards around that, I think that's going to be the best we can do with the data that we've got. The tools are catching up in terms of the big tools out there are catching up in terms of AI visibility, but it's so volatile. It changes all the time. You might rank for something one day, you might not the next day. It's all that kind of stuff. But just really boiling it down to what is the point of getting these rankings or writing this piece or writing this article? Is it just to get clicks? In which case, it's probably a bad idea. But is it there to like nurture your user journey or eventually get to leads, that kind of thing? I think that's the best. I think that's the best we can do at the moment.
Awesome. And one thing I kind of wanted to throw out to you guys before we move on to the next topic as well is just in terms of maintaining, I guess, I don't want to call it necessarily layoff resistant, but maybe just making yourself as appealing to a potential market, if you are potentially looking in the next few months or whatever, to enter back into the market. How does brand play, and I'm talking about personal brand in this aspect now, how does personal branding play an aspect in being on the market nowadays. I mean, like, I can throw this back to you, Ian, especially because you are in like the freelance realm right now. But I know, like, Erika, you may also want to weigh in on this as well.
Yeah, if I go with, like, for me, the important thing is making sure people don't think I am an AI, I guess. And that comes in the kind of the content I write, but also doing more things like this, like podcasts or even like videos, that kind of thing. Yes, like there's a lot of deep fakes out there, but it's more rare. And when you see somebody talk, and when you get an idea of somebody's character, I think that's the most important thing. I think at the end of the day, people still buy from people, and I don't know any hiring managers that have just hired like off a CV. There's always that human element there as well. So yeah, in terms of personal branding, it's just knowing what that is, and I guess knowing who you want to target or what you want to go after, and not necessarily just like what industry you want to go for, but also you could talk about what demographics you want to go for, and really boiling down to them. Like, let's say you just want to do SEO and you want to be like kind of in the beauty industry. And then it's learning what that means in terms of, like, traditionally we would just look at keywords and searches around particular makeup. But now when you look at the landscape, you might say, okay, well, TikTok's huge for this kind of thing. So can I zone in on that? So if you're off for that interview and you've done your research specifically in terms of, like, this is really important for your strategy. Admitting, I am junior, but I'm here to learn. We're adapt to the kind of strategies that are out there. And I think that's the best way, and that kind of niching down.
Awesome. Yeah, moving on. We wanted to cover how brand and AI sort of like intertwine into each other. So the first question I have here is, how do you maintain brand voice when using AI to generate or scale content? Eric, if you want to tackle this one.
Yeah, I've done this in the past, in the recent past, with some of our clients. And this is, to me, this sounds obvious, but maybe it's not for some. I'm sure it's obvious for everyone on this call, but just continuing to have that human touch. Just, do not copy and paste your AI output and put it onto a website or onto a blog or onto your LinkedIn, because it will be not only very obvious, but people will probably come down on you for it. I think that we had a client where we fed the actual, with client approval, of course, fed actual, tone of voice and demographic and audience information into the tool that we were utilizing to build out content, and having it, kind of repeat back to us what the meaning of the brand was, what the targets were, if it was understanding what we were trying to portray, and then giving it more granular data to build out actual, like, product content is what we were using it for. So then having that output, it had a better sound and a type of voice where it was speaking as though it was that kind of audience, because AI could be a little creepy in its output. When you start to dive into it a little more, it tends to go a little overkill on sounding a little too much like what you're asking it to do sometimes. But then again, just feeding it back through a human, making sure that it's aligned with how, not just the tone of voice and how a brand would speak about a product, but making it seem more genuine. I think it's the same thing with kind of old school SEO tactics, where it would be, make sure these keywords are in the copy and make sure these keywords are bold in the copy. Like, it's not just about that. It's about getting the message across of what you're trying to portray and sounding like a human. Whether it's a human copywriter writing that content or an AI, you have to ensure there's a flow and a tone to it that is easy to read and understand, and sounds like it actually came from someone who is passionate about what they're discussing or what they're selling. I think that's highly important. But at the end of the day, it's always having, a percentage of a human touch in there throughout the process. Don't just let the AI produce something. I'm looking at all the LinkedIn folks out there. I've been seeing a lot of suspect text and visual content out there that I think a lot of people will get burnt out on if they're not burnt out already. So you're kind of playing a bit of a gamble with putting that stuff out there. That's just my opinion, though.
Awesome.
I could add in a little bit too. I think that was really great, Eric. I think you can also just train your LLM on your content, right? Like, just they learn from the way we speak on our site or in our documentation. And we started sort of implementing this new like 40, 30, 30 split at inMotion hosting, where 40% of content with AI is using the user's proprietary knowledge, right? So 40% of it's from yourself, 30% of it is from documentation that you give it, and then another 30% is just from the AI's own knowledge base. So I think that kind of helps as well make it unique and have like some actual insights that the AI wouldn't come up with on its own.
It's probably a good split, Sam. I like it. I think there was it was only last week there was Ahrefs released their study, which I think it was 82% of content has some sort of AI involvement. The stats showed, thankfully, that the articles which were like very obviously AI didn't really do as well, didn't rank in the top 20, as well as some that have had that human interaction. So I think balancing them too, it just makes sense. I think for me, AI is better at the short form tasks, and it's really good at modifying existing content. But in terms of doing the kind of content that would make people want to click from an AI overview onto your page, I think that's when you get more human. So I don't think it's, AI can replace all aspects of content at this moment, but definitely in terms of rewrite and short form, use it, but always have that human element.
Do you guys have any, I think I can ask this to maybe Eric and Erika as well, just what processes do you guys have for your SEO teams just to put in place for quality assurance with AI generated content as well, especially with brand aligned stuff?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it. Take the floor.
A big part of that, first of all, everything that everyone said is great. I didn't know about the 40-30-30 formula, but that gave me a good idea, Sam. So so human review, for example, training models or any automations you build, what you feed into it, and so on is important. My answer to this, plus the question before, though, was going to start at a very fundamental point, which is brand is not the tone of voice, right? Tone of voice is an aspect, and for me, I might not, many people may not agree with me. It's a small part, and even humans usually do a very poor job of being consistent in terms of brand, tone of voice, and everything else. But if we look at the essence of brand, what brand is how your audience is, how others perceive you, right? And that is a very collective thing that has to do even with the initial selection before you go into positioning, USBs, all the other abbreviations we all know, is what do I talk about? And then define how do I talk about it? What is it that I want to be known, loved for, remembered for, and so on. It's not very different to how humans may be behaving themselves, right? So the first point is, whether you involve AI to generate everything, whether you edit or not edit, is what do you ask it to do, and how do you inform it on how to approach it, right? Your tone of voice is going to be something that eventually, like AI, different models, different workflows work well by giving examples. Here's a successful example. Here's a bad example. So you can train over time. But the initial selection of what are you going to be talking about, for whom, and how, like what is your unique take on that, right? That is something that can only be led right now by humans. And that is where, for example, I'm placing my focus with my team, is right. And that varies as well. I'm not being completely honest, because it varies. Different types of content or outputs require different levels of brand versus other considerations, right? But to a degree, it all needs to be true to a brand. So that initial selection is like, what am I going to talk about? Who am I addressing? What is their pain point? How am I unique in solving and addressing that pain point? And then how do I want to be perceived while doing all of that, right? Why am I different? So so these are things that over time with training, examples, as I said, fine tuning and so on, you can get to a good level. I am very hopeful that the human intervention part will need to be less and less in the future, and it will be for the really creative stuff, right? Like interviews or other stuff, like very unique content. But right now, my team focuses a lot on reviewing stuff, editing, providing very clear briefs, structure, so on. So we don't leave much to creative thinking on the AI side. But my starting point is before even that. It's like, why are we talking about it, and why should others listen when we talk about it? And that is very clearly defined in the beginning.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that. It makes me think of, it's not just, the brand will have its brand perspective on all of this, but then, like you said, AI results are not just taking from your brand site and or from your affiliate site. They're looking at your Instagram, they're pulling from TikTok, they're pulling from Reddit. Like, you have to understand how users are talking about your brands in those areas as well. And this goes back to something I said before about like answer engine stuff. I've been working with teams who have been doing that for years. So when the AI came along, we were sort of already set up for that because we were already looking at these other areas of where and how people were talking about a brand. Did it align with what the brand wanted to say or their messaging? And how could we kind of meet in between if it didn't? So it's a really good point, and it's something again to keep in mind. And we've already said it a few times. It's not just about ranking X, Y, and Z here and there. We have to figure out the full landscape and understand all the different areas and ways that people are talking about us, and all that has to be taken into consideration, whether you're feeding that data into an AI tool or just trying to understand what types of results you're getting.
And yes, that's exactly it. And Eric, one more thing there. This is substantially different to the input SEOs are used to have on content, or why they do stuff. Is like, it's because that keyword, it's because whatever, like we rank. So for me, the starting point, later Reddit was added because Reddit ranks, so maybe what people are talking about there. But what I'm saying is a mind shift to going into pain points much more than before. And pain points because our lack of data as well, prompting, it's personalized experiences now, right? So I think that is what is exposing the huge gap between traditional SEO and where we are now, because traditional SEO never cared about pain points. It cared about something else. Not never. Like, there are many good SEOs out there who always cared. But right now, you're just as good, I think, if you also factor in that what are our clients saying when they're typing questions on our site to find answers, right? What are they saying on calls? Like, if your company is using something like Gong, right? What are they saying? Why are they coming to you? What are their pain points? What are people saying about the topics you want to write about on forums, industry forums or general forums? Because no matter how well you think, or tools make you think they track AI mode or AI overuse, there's nothing more volatile than that anyway. Like, disclaimer, I don't even track AI overviews, and I don't care. Maybe my manager does, so I need to ask him on Monday. But I don't even track that. I don't care, because it's so volatile. It's not here to stay either. And AI mode, there's no real way to track it properly right now. So what I care about is understanding that mindset of the people I really want to attract, right? So I need to understand their pain points. I need to understand what fights their objections. And I can get really good first party data from other platforms I'm using compared to any other SEO tool out there right now. Then I can extrapolate, right? I can confirm search volume, similar stuff, competitors. Like, the traditional stuff is still there, but my starting point, I cannot afford it to be just a keyword. That's what I'm saying. It's a very, very false picture of the reality that we're facing.
How are you guys managing? Now, this is sort of flipping it into visibility on LLMs, right? Brand mentions is quite a hot topic at the moment. How do you manage strategizing and also aligning your content with those aspects and just visibility in LLMs at the moment? Yeah. Erika, do you want to go for that?
Me or Erica? Sorry.
Erika.
Or either one. Oh, Erica. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Shreya, did you say how do I track the brand citations?
How do you? Yeah, so the question was just in regards to like brand mentions are being highlighted at the moment in terms of AI visibility. So a lot of strategy is incorporating brand mentions at the moment. How do you ensure aligning your content and your brand with brand mentions in order to optimize for AI visibility?
Okay.
Mm.
So the expensive answer is you buy a tool that tracks citations. But I'm not going to stick to that because I imagine a lot of our audience cannot do that, right? And
Yeah.
it should be given that in order to do your job, you have to pay a lot of money to track every citation or as much as they can track. So, but I would say for companies, people listening to us who can afford to do that and do their job, like there are tools out there. I don't want to play the advocate for any of them right now, but we know a few. We can suggest in private if they want to DM us afterwards. There are tools to track, and then from there you take the more data-led approach of how am I cited, who is citing me, what am I doing about that, and that may be depending on the structure and the organization. It may be it may be a matter of another team addressing like PR, influencers, some affiliates. Like there's a wide spectrum there. If you don't have that, right, what do you do? Because then you're kind of like blind again. You can track what you could always track, which is Google. For your brand, you have lists of branded keywords you can Google and see what happens there. Who's coming up apart from you, right? How are they talking about you? You can use NLP to analyze sentiment, for example, at scale, right? You can build some workflows to analyze sentiment, and you can do that as well by even for social content, right? You can export from accounts that you care about, gather that, aggregate that data, analyze sentiment, analyze who else is there. That's a bit more manual than the tools I mentioned, but it's still worth doing. And then there are like small scale stuff that go unnoticed, but they can be hints as to where you should start looking, right? So if let's assume someone is not working at the moment, right? They don't have access to any tools or anything else. Just take your brand or a brand that ChatGPT knows, right? Go do the equivalent of an incognito, which is like a temporary thing. Start asking it and querying it things about that brand, right? See, push it. Like I was doing that the other day for something very specific, I thought initially, but then it got me so interested, just got into a whole conversation and spent my whole evening with ChatGPT, which is sad. But but you sort of start asking like, okay, why this and not that? How about this? All in relation to your brand. It will pull through stuff from, I don't know, like Trustpilot, G2, Reddit. Ask it like as if it was a person that was telling you, ooh, but people don't like this, but they like that. Okay, what are they saying? Why are they saying that? Who do they like more? Then you start getting a proxy image of like, okay, how could it be? Let's say that is the lowest scenario, like zero funds, no job, no company doing anything on that. You still have access to something that says, I can get an idea of how this may be working right now. Okay.
Mm.
And if you combine that with your branded search and what comes up there, and if you combine that with data from if you're working in your affiliates team, for example, or your influencer or your partnerships teams, then you start getting the idea of that. Beyond that, it's strategies that I think are built not just within SEO teams. So that is what I was talking about when we started, like your reputation, your PR, your affiliates, your partnerships, everything comes into it, because reputation is not just the brand's thing to manage or a company's things to manage, is what others say. So it's about how do you participate or lead that discussion.
Awesome. I love that. Sam, I wanted to maybe throw this question out to you, just on regards to like ethical and strategic implications. Something that is so prevalent at the moment is that ChatGPT suffers from hallucinations. So, how do you and your team manage or handle like hallucinations and factual inaccuracies in AI outputs within your like strategy, your brand strategy?
Oh, this is like a multifaceted question that I probably spend the rest of the time on, but I will try my best to not.
All right.
Yeah, so I find that let me answer the second part first. So like whenever we see inaccuracies, we just try to find the source and update the source if possible. If not possible, then we try to make our own authoritative source that would be referenced over that. And as far as like the ethical implications, there are a lot. I think there are, in some ways, it's a little bit like if you think about how like negative SEO was a thing a few years ago, it was much more prevalent. You could do the same thing here, right? Like where you could rank a source, or you could have a piece of content that's the source on purpose of someone else's business and make it a negative sentiment or make it inaccurate, right? You'd be like, this is a competitor's site and this is their home address and phone number and it actually goes to you, or something like that. And so there's a lot of weirdness. I think it's much easier in a smaller niche or industry to do that stuff, but it's still possible. And then I also find that there's a lot of ethical dilemmas in how you influence the AI results, and especially around sites like Quora and Reddit, when you're like manufacturing engagement, and like, how far are you willing to take that as a company, that you need to like sort of plant a flag and say, we're not going to fake accounts, or we're not going to have fake comments. And that's the approach we're taking here at inMotion Hosting is we know we have competitors out there that are really like active on Reddit specifically, and they have a lot of like bias and influenced activity that it obviously is helping them. But I think ethically, we just say we're not willing to take that risk. And so, yeah, that's kind of it is a prisoner's dilemma, right? Like if you're the one taking the risk or not taking the risk, then are you willing to allow your competitors to do that? And you're the one who's going to suffer because of it. But yeah.
That's a really good sentiment, Sam. It's good to hear that, because I deal mainly with like small to mid-sized companies, and they're wanting to do what the big guys are doing. But I think it's just not letting it run away. And even the big guys are getting it wrong. Like DPD recently was all over because their AI chatbot you could basically get it to say what you want, including the fact that DPD is rubbish. I wouldn't ever go with that courier. So that'll kind of, people get themselves into trouble when they use it too much. But yeah.
If you're a small business,
I would just say,
competing with a bigger business, there's a lot of opportunity in that gray hat area to break ground. So, I mean, I couldn't fault someone trying to break in like against a company that can buy their way to the top, which is very possible still. Yeah, you have to be creative or unethical.
Yeah. I guess moving away from the deeper sort of heavier side of things, I wanted to kind of maybe build a bit of excitement and optimism as we come to the end of this panel discussion, and just look into the future. And I think, Ian, if I could maybe start with you, what's one AI and SEO trend that you've been noticing over the past few months that you're excited to watch develop over the next few months? And yeah.
It's a good question. I'm glad you give it a positive spin, because I can give loads of examples of negative things people are doing with SEO. But I think the exciting thing is, just like how much power the kind of AI tools give you, especially for someone who's less technical. especially for like copywriters. So like we talk about creating these richer blogs for people, whereas traditional content writers wouldn't be empowered to do that. But now with the tools like ChatGPT or whatever, you can create calculators within your blogs. You can create all of these like interactive experiences within it, and you just use that tool to basically make a better blog. Whereas even going back a couple of years, that might be something you have to try to get a developer to do it for you. There's no budget for that. You find a friend that knows coding to add like a mortgage calculator to a blog. All that stuff, like you're empowered to do it now as well. And I would just very, very quickly get an idea of what the different AI tools there are good for and what they're bad for. So we talked about like hallucinating. Most people, I'd say 90% of people in-house will just go to ChatGPT. It's set to the default, like ChatGPT 4 model. Don't use that all the time. If you want to do some research on your competitors, use the deep research model to kind of get that. It'll do a better job. Use like O3 for more advanced reasoning. And GPT is mainly for, like conversational kind of like quick answers, but don't always use that. Notebook LM's another one I'll tell people to use because that hallucinates less. And that is somewhere you can add all your own sources and add your competitor sources and get better ideas out there. So yeah, use the tools. I always say AI won't replace your job, but someone who's using AI will.
If I could kind of jump off that, because I totally agree. It's, it gives people more creativity, and it also frees up their time to allow people to be, especially as SEOs, to be more creative and more strategic. I think a lot of SEOs, especially as we've been talking about earlier on in the career, you get very bogged down with very granular stuff, tactical stuff. And I found many of the best SEOs I've worked with come from kind of either creative backgrounds, like, maybe they were an English major in college. I was an English major in college. I've worked with several, or maybe they have more creative hobbies, things like that. So it gives their ideas tend to be a little more outside of the box and creative, and it gives you more time to build upon that when you've got these tools to help you with some of the, like Sam, I think he said, the grunt work, for lack of a better term, to help with that. I know everyone says, at scale is the big phrase that corporations like to use now, but it's true. It allows us to do that at scale and be more creative in less time. I was building like just a very small couple of page website for myself, and I ran it through Claude, and it built the website. It gave me the code and a mock-up of it within 4 minutes maybe. I haven't launched it yet. The code might be terrible. We'll find out, but it at least gave me that jumping off point very quickly, and I am not a web developer at all, so it was super helpful. But yeah, I think what Ian was saying, the creativity, and that leading to just having more time to focus on more creative or more strategic things is what I'm excited about the most.
I love that. If I can squeeze in one last question just to Erika, because I really wanted to ask this question, is if you were to advise brands on one thing regarding AI and SEO for the next 12 months, what would it be?
If I was to advise the brands
on one thing regarding AI and SEO over the next 12 months, what would it be?
Good question. Good question.
Glad I didn't get that question.
And we have 2 minutes. Oh my God. So am I talking to the people calling the shots or the people working for those brands?
No, the people calling the shots.
The people calling the shots. Okay. Yeah, I would say stop living off certainties. No one is right now. Stop asking for the same things to approve or disapprove things, and force that experimentation mindset if you aren't already, and then double down on that. That doesn't mean go wild, say yes to everything, or like, I don't want to be misinterpreted, but I want to say that don't cut down on first of all, double down on your people and the people you hire to have that mindset. Secondly, what worked so far, great. Don't abandon it. If it's still working, okay, but leave more space for experimentation and new things, and don't back things up depending on how much data someone can show you for that to work. Be a bit more open-minded and build as you go. This is the state of the industry right now. So I think they can choose to be one of the first ones to build or one of the last ones when they have to, because everyone else and their competitors have done that. So I would say just be a pioneer. Just just don't stick to what you know right now, and don't force people to just stick to what they know or they can prove to you. Vet the logic, vet the knowledge we already have, but go for it.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you. 10 out of 10 answer on the dots too. But yeah, thank you so much. That actually it wraps up our first ever panel discussion on SEO leadership. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I think we had some really interesting discussions today. Lots to learn from as well. Some really awesome insights from everyone as well. Thanks to everyone in the chat as well. Eric, you have a fan as well. Someone said, love you lots. But yeah, thanks so much, guys, for coming on. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend ahead. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode that comes up. For anyone else that has missed this, sorry, just a quick shout out, still learning this whole setup. For anyone that has missed this, I'm going to be uploading it on YouTube on Tuesday. I see that some people are asking for the link. And please, everyone, check out Sam, Erika, Eric, and Ian on LinkedIn. Pop them a follow. And if you have any questions for them, pop them a message as well. And yeah, everyone, have a great weekend, and we'll chat soon.